Hello YouTube, welcome to Bub's World. I'm your host Bub. Today we're going to get into, oh boy, I bought a big comic collection. I think it was 17 short boxes of books. I went to the local comic fair and oh my gosh, somebody walked up. I'll tell you the story in a minute, but let's see how I did.
You're watching Bub's Comics, Bub.
All right, so short story is I went to the Danville Comic and Toy Convention about an hour north of me in Kentucky. So I went there, and what happened I went there to sell books. I didn't have a lot of books to sell. I was splitting a booth, but it worked out okay. But this guy rolled up. He had a big collection. The guy works actually not too far from me, and he had a collection of books that he picked up at a storage unit. So he's a storage unit flipper, if you will. So he picked up these books at the storage unit. He was like, I didn't know what to do with these collections, but I brought it here. And he said it hadn't been gone through. And I believed him because as I was digging through, all the books were stuck together. Like, after bags get to a certain age, they just kind of peel against each other. So that's what was going on here. The collection was largely bronze. It was mostly a bronze X-Men collection, really, is what it mostly was. And then also it had a lot of other kind of anywhere from late bronze to copper and not very much modern really at all. So some very early 90s stuff. Death of Superman, stuff like that you'd expect. So that's what I picked up. I'm in the process of I already went through the whole collection. I'm in the process of selling off a lot of the collection. So this is not the entirety of what I bought because I'm not going to sit here and go through 17 short boxes. So what this is, these are the books that I kept. Okay. So in some cases, there are bigger books than here that I purchased in the collection. I mean, I paid quite enough for the collection. So obviously there's bigger books than what I'm going to show, but I already had them. So if it's a book that I already have, I'm not showing it here. So unless it was an upgrade. So these are the books that I didn't have basically, and then these are the keepers of the collection for me, which is the main reason why I purchase stuff like this. Is I'm not a flipper. I'm not trying to buy a collection to sell a collection. I'm really just trying to buy a collection to increase my collection, and then the stuff that doesn't fit in my collection, I sell. So anyway, let's get started. First book on the list is Superboy number 9, and this is the first appearance of King Shark. Very cool there. And digging that. And then next up, so I didn't have this book. It's a book I kind of wanted. It kind of went crazy price-wise there for a little while with the Suicide Squad 2 movie, I think, which featured him heavily. Next up was an upgrade book. Here is X Factor number 6 with the first appearance of Apocalypse, and I think that there is some there's another first appearance or whatever, but this is the recognized one, first appearance of Apocalypse. All right, next is another upgrade book, and this is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and this book is clean. Let me tell you something, these books basically have been put in storage and untouched. Now, as I was going through the collection, there were books missing. There were keys missing here and there. And it seemed representative of when the book was put away. So these books clearly had been in a storage locker for about 30 years, untouched. So what happened was that books that were already known to be key books at that time, that people were sought after. The guy probably had a key box that he kept, if you will, in his house or wherever. Because remember, these were out of a storage unit. So you got to imagine that there's more of the collection somewhere else that had definitely not been picked through. So that was pretty cool. So I needed an upgrade to this one, so I got it. And this is a beautiful, beautiful copy. Almost everything out of there was pristine, except for this one. So this is Superman number 317. A really, really rough copy of this book. But, I mean, you can't argue with that Neil Adams goodness. Just so cool with the green glow of kryptonite behind him. That is so cool. Stuff like this, I consider this like a rescue from the collection because it was super cool. But man, I just had to have this in my collection, you know. This next book, so in addition to the collection, the guy threw in like a suitcase, which also had comics in it. But like when I first opened the suitcase, just looked like a bunch of like personal drawing stuff that the guy was doing. Same out of the same collection. And so I wasn't really excited about it. But then when I got home and went through more and more of it, that had a couple of treasuries in there, which makes sense because they wouldn't fit in a box. And then he also had this randomly, a G.I. Joe #1. And this one's really interesting to me because this is a book that I probably would never have purchased because I wasn't I played with G.I. Joes as a kid, like the smaller action figures, but I never was like a huge G.I. Joe fan. But so I've always kind of wanted this book, but I didn't want to pay the price that fans pay for this book. And I think this might hold the record for like the most first appearances in a comic book. Because it's got like every G.I. Joe and I think Cobra member in the book. So it's pretty cool. And it's a good condition. I mean, the books in this collection, this was slightly rougher condition. It was just loose in a suitcase. But most of them, when I say suitcase, I mean a briefcase. So most of them were some of them didn't have boards, but when they were packed that tight, it didn't matter. They were all super flat. But most of them were bagged and boarded in short boxes, in comic short boxes. So super happy to have that one. Look at that. I'm digging that. I'm super pleased with that. All right. Next up, we got Marvel Superheroes Contest of Champions #1. So this is a book that I used to have one of. I don't know if I ever had the #1. But I used to have this when I was going to try and complete the 3-piece set, but I gave up on it. But yep, Contest of Champions got like everybody's in it, and there's #1. Here's #2, and here is #3. Very cool. That one's really tough. Check that out. All right. And then I picked up this one. Now, I usually sell, like, I've had a lot of these anniversary borders before, but I usually end up selling them. And then this was one that I never had, but I kind of always wanted. So I've kept a few of them, my favorites, and I've sold the rest. But this one, the Incredible Hulk 325 with that Hulk border, it's just so cool. Anniversary border, a real tough looking Hulk. I mean, I'm digging that. That's me all day. I really, really like that. So that's going in the collection. Here's a reprint, but it's a book that I don't have, and it's a reprint I never had. So here's Detective Comics 38. I believe the first appearance of Robin. But very cool. And this is one of those like promo reprints from back in the day. So I like, if I'm going to get a reprint, I kind of like to get an old reprint, if that makes sense. So, all right, moving into some, I mean, this is some more stuff I just didn't expect. But here is the Deadpool miniseries #1. So this is the limited series, yep, #1. So very cool early Deadpool stuff. Again, didn't expect this. My son would fight me for him, but I think he already has a complete set. And here is #2. Very cool. And like I said, I gave up a pretty penny for this collection, but about half I felt like what it was worth. Here's #3. Very cool art there. And here is #4. And I didn't have any of these, surprisingly. I mean, I was surprised I didn't have any. I thought I had at least this one, but I guess not. And then, now he had an incomplete run of this one, but I really just wanted the #1 anyway. So here's Deadpool. I think this is the Circle Chase, #1. And this copy is sharp. Like I said, most of the books, especially the ones that were the 90s books, they're all like 9.8 candidates, or now 9.9, 10, who knows. But, I mean, this book is super clean, super sharp copy of the book. And that black cover never had a fingerprint on it. Probably till mine. But very clean copy of this book. So super digging that. And then you never know what you'll find. Here's Green Lantern number 51. And I believe that's a key issue for Kyle Rayner. And also I have the issue before this, which I think is like Death of... he had the whole Kyle Rayner lead up. So he had, in this collection, it was the first couple of issues before this with Death of Parallax and stuff like that. And then it was leading up. And then he had most of the Kyle Rayner story, you know, the early story. So I couldn't decide what to do about this. I plucked this one out. Plus it was a DC Universe variant. And there weren't very many of those in the collection. So somehow he managed to get this one. And I just felt like if I got another copy of this book, I probably wouldn't find one with the DC Universe variant. So I went ahead and grabbed it. So very pleased with that. And then also picked up this. He had just a Wizard magazine. I don't usually pick up too many of these, but I have. I mean, I have like a short box full of them. But here is, let's see, the Year Ender, Wizard number 41. And just had a cool Cyclops on there. And Cyclops is getting a little more popular again with the X-Men 97 cartoon. Speaking of X-Men, I don't know if it'll be my very next video, but the part 2 to this will be the X-Men collection. The actual box of X-Men that I picked up out of this collection. And in the collection, there was Hulk, there's Bronze Age Hulk, Avengers, Iron Man. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff in this collection, but I don't collect all that stuff. And Fantastic Four, it was about 50% Bronze Age Marvel, about 25% modern DC, if you will, or copper to modern DC. And then about 25% just scattered, some indie titles and all, and then random older books and random newer books, just all over the place. But the bulk of the collection, the solidly half of the collection was fixed right at Bronze Age Marvel, which is pretty cool because that's a lot of the stuff I collect. So that's it. So look forward. I still got the little $20 price tag on this one that I had on there as I was going to sell it. And I was sitting there at a booth with it for sale. And I was like, I think if that doesn't sell today, I'm taking it home. And it didn't sell, so I took it home. And it might have been a little overpriced. That's what we do when we want to keep them. So, all right. Well, that's it. We'll catch you next time in Bub's World. We're going to be going through the main collection of X-Men that I picked up. And boy, there's some great books in there, and there's a bunch of them. I think I saved out about 80 books from the collection of the X-Men just for my collection. So we'll run through those pretty quick in another video. But until then, and also I picked up another collection while I was there. I bought 2 collections while I was there. You just never know what's going to happen. So until then, we'll catch you next time. Remember to read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. Bye-bye.
Now subscribe, you egg-sucking pieces of gutter trash. Now.